I'm 73 years old, and for most of my life, I thought something was wrong with me. I was always tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, a deeper kind, the kind that sits in your bones and makes everything feel heavy. Getting out of bed felt like pushing through water. Going to work, raising my kids, even the things I was supposed to enjoy. All of it exhausted me. I went to doctors. They ran tests. They checked my blood, my thyroid, my heart. They told me I was fine. Maybe just stressed. Maybe just getting older. But I knew it was something else. I just couldn't name it. And then 2 years ago, sitting alone in my kitchen on a Tuesday morning, I finally understood. I wasn't tired of working. I wasn't tired of aging. I was tired of living a life that was never mine. Let me go back to the beginning. I grew up in a house where dreams were considered selfish. My father worked at the same factory for 34 years. My mother raised 5 children. They didn't talk about passion or purpose. They talked about duty, responsibility, keeping your head down and doing what needed to be done. I was the middle child, the quiet one, the one who watched and learned and never caused trouble. What I learned was this: wanting things for yourself was dangerous. It led to disappointment. The safe path was to do what was expected, to fit into the shape other people made for you. So that's what I did. When I was 17, I wanted to study art. I used to draw constantly. Faces, landscapes, anything I saw. My teacher said I had talent. She encouraged me to apply to art school. I told my father about it one night after dinner. He didn't yell. He didn't forbid it. He just looked at me with tired eyes and said, "That's not a real life. That's a hobby." And that was the end of it. I studied accounting instead. It was practical. It made sense. It was what responsible people did. I never picked up a pencil to draw again. That was the first time I abandoned myself. But it wasn't the last. I married young. His name was Richard. He was stable, predictable. My parents approved. Everyone said we were a good match. I didn't love him. Not really. I liked him. I felt safe with him. But there was no fire, no pull, no feeling of being truly seen. I told myself that was fine. Love was a fairy tale. Compatibility was what mattered. We built a life together, a house, children, routines. From the outside, it looked like everything you're supposed to want. But inside, I felt hollow. I remember lying awake at night sometimes, Richard asleep beside me, feeling like I was suffocating, like there was a scream building in my chest that I couldn't let out. I didn't understand it. I had everything. Why wasn't I happy? I thought it was depression. I thought it was hormones. I thought it was just who I was. Someone incapable of joy. But that wasn't it at all. The tiredness came because I was spending all my energy being someone I wasn't. Every day I performed. I smiled when I didn't feel like smiling. I agreed when I wanted to argue. I said yes when my whole body was screaming no. I raised my children the way I thought I was supposed to. I cooked the meals, cleaned the house, showed up at every event. I did everything right. But I was never there. Not really. I was too exhausted to be present, too drained from pretending. My daughter told me once, years later, that she always felt like I was somewhere else, like I was going through the motions, but my mind was far away. She was right. I was far away. I was trapped inside myself, watching my own life happen from behind
There were
glass.
moments when the real me tried to surface. When I was 35, I saw an ad for a painting class at the community center. Something stirred in me, something old and forgotten. I mentioned it to Richard. He laughed. Not cruelly, just casually. He said, "What do you need that for? You've got enough to do." I didn't sign up. When I was 42, a friend invited me to join her on a trip to Spain. Just the two of us? 2 weeks of freedom? I wanted to go. God, I wanted to go. But I said no. The kids needed me. Richard couldn't manage alone. It wasn't practical. She went without me. She came back glowing. I stayed home and felt the tiredness sink deeper. When I was 50, my mother died. At her funeral, I stood by her grave and felt a strange sensation. Not just grief. Something else. Fear. Because I looked at her life and I saw my own. She had done everything right too. She had sacrificed and endured and never complained. And now she was gone. And I couldn't remember her ever being truly happy. I thought, is that going to be me? But I didn't change. I went back home, back to the routine.
back to the performance. The tiredness became my normal. I stopped noticing it. It was just part of who I was. Richard died 8 years ago. Heart attack. Quick and sudden. I expected to feel devastated. And I was sad, in a way. 41 years is a long time to share your life with someone. But mostly, I felt confused. Because for the first time in decades, no one was watching. No one expected anything from me. And I didn't know who I was without the performance. I walked through that first year like a ghost. I kept the house clean. I kept the routines. I did everything the same, even though there was no one to do it for. And the tiredness got worse. One morning, about 2 years ago, I woke up and I couldn't get out of bed. Not physically. Physically, I was fine. I just couldn't see the point. I lay there for hours, staring at the ceiling, asking myself a question I'd avoided my whole life. What do I actually want? I didn't know the answer. I realized I had never asked myself that question. Not once. Not seriously. Every decision I'd ever made was based on what others expected. What was practical? What was safe? What would make me acceptable, lovable, good enough? I had never once asked what would make me come alive. And the tiredness suddenly made sense. I wasn't tired because life was hard. I was tired because I'd been living someone else's life for 71 years. The exhaustion wasn't physical. It was the weight of all the things I'd suppressed. The dreams I'd abandoned. The words I'd swallowed. The person I'd never let myself become. I had spent my whole life running away from myself.
That realization
and it
didn't
drained
fix
me
everything.
completely.
You don't undo 7 decades of self-abandonment in a moment. But something shifted. I started small. I bought a sketchbook. The first one I'd owned since I was 17. My hands shook when I made the first marks. I was terrible. Worse than terrible. Whatever skill I'd had was long gone, but I kept going. Something about it felt like breathing. Like waking up. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do. Dinners with people who drained me. Obligations I'd agreed to out of guilt. The constant exhausting performance of being agreeable. I told my daughter the truth one afternoon. That I'd spent my whole life feeling like I was playing a role. That I was only now, at 73, starting to figure out who I really was. She cried, and then she hugged me. She said, "Mom, I wish you told me sooner." So do I. I think about all the years I lost. All the moments I was present but not really there. All the energy I spent maintaining a version of myself that was never real. I think about my marriage. 41 years of partnership without intimacy. Without ever being truly known. I think about my children growing up with a mother who was always tired. Always distant. Always performing. I can't get those years back. I know that. But I have some time left. I don't know how much. But some. And I'm using it differently now. I paint every morning. Badly. Joyfully. I take walks without purpose. I sit in cafes alone and don't feel guilty about it. I'm learning who I am. At 73. For the first time. If you're listening to this and you feel that tiredness I'm describing, that bone-deep exhaustion that sleep doesn't touch, I want you to hear something. It might not be your body. It might not be your circumstances. It might be your life. Not life itself, but the life you're living. The one you inherited or fell into or built to please everyone except yourself. That kind of life will drain you. Day after day, year after year, until you forget you were ever anything else. But you were. You were someone before you learned to perform. Before you started editing yourself to fit. Before you traded your truth for acceptance. That person is still in there. And they're tired of waiting. I wasted most of my life being who I thought I should be. I performed my way through decades and called it living. And all I have to show for it is a tiredness that took 71 years to understand. But I understand it now. The tiredness wasn't because life was too much. It was because the life I was living wasn't mine. I'm 73 years old. I'm painting again. Badly, but honestly, I'm resting now. Really resting. Not because I'm doing less, but because I'm finally not pretending. And for the first time in my life, I'm not tired. Not the way I used to be. I still get exhausted. I'm old. My body is slowing down. But that heaviness I carried for 60 years, it's gone. Because I'm not performing anymore. I'm just here. Finally. Being myself. It took 73 years to get here. I hope it doesn't take you as long.